welcome everybody officially. Thanks a lot for taking the time to join the event. Thanks a lot, Shai, for accepting to be our guest speaker. We had a few conversations earlier this year, and I was really excited about what they achieved at Orbia in terms of building innovation capabilities. Myself being an innovation consultant, I was always frustrated with companies who pretend they build something, but it's actually not really delivering the results they're hoping for. So I believe that Orbia is an example of successful transformation. And I would like Shai to give us an intro of himself for those who don't know him, a bit of the role at Orbia and the company as well, and share what he learned for the last few years. And then let's have an interactive session of Q&As and make everything more dynamic. So Shai, welcome. Thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure. My pleasure, and great to see all the, old friends here. I feel not as a guest. I feel in the family. So it's good. Let's try to do it interactive. I'll give maybe a brief overview of Orbia and my role, just to set the context. But then hopefully the kind of like the lessons that I learned that I can share would be more of a discussion rather than just me talking all the time. So very briefly for the people who don't know me, I grew up in Israel. But as an adult, I spent around 7-8 years living outside of Israel, whether studying, traveling, living, working in various countries, US, Latin America, Europe, Asia. Maybe from a personal point of view, I live in Tel Aviv today. I have 2 kids, twins, a boy and a girl that are 10 years old. When I'm not working and I'm trying to maintain a healthy life balance. So when I'm not working, I'm trying to do sports every day. I like to be in the nature, and so off-roading became, especially during COVID, a lot of off-roading in the nature. We were supposed to be going at the end of the month to Jordan, to the desert there, but now COVID restrictions canceled the plan, or maybe not canceled, delayed the plans. And yeah, also from health and I mean the broader health perspective, mental health, physical health, nutrition, and all of that. This became something that I got involved in the last 5-6 years. Yeah, that's about it. And from a professional point of view, so my background has three big chapters. Okay, the current one, I'll talk in a second, but the first chapter was the early stage entrepreneurship chapter. I did computer science, I did entrepreneurship, I had my own startup, I worked for other people's startups. These were the first, let's say, 7-8 years of experience. Then I thought, okay, I need to jump to the deep pool. So in 2007 I joined some of you in France, and we did INSEAD, and then started the second chapter, which was more of a kind of like the international big organizations. In the beginning as a consultant at McKinsey, then I moved to Israel and joined a company called Netafim, which is the largest irrigation company in the world. This was my first introduction to agriculture. So I worked there for 6 years in various positions. And then in 2018, Orbia acquired Netafim. This is how I joined the Orbia family. And my current role is kind of like a mix between my first chapter and my second chapter. So it's basically doing startup work, investments, innovation, early stage stuff in the context of a large organization that have the global exposure, the expertise, the foundation, the resources to do things in a large scale. Allow me 1 second to say hello to my kid who came back from school.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nice.
Um,
So maybe for those who are not familiar with Orbia, is correct me if I'm wrong, is the former Mexichem, right?
exactly.
And Mexican chemicals company, which became global, and then eventually under the transformation program, the name was changed as well, but many other things, right?
Exactly. So a few words about Orbia. Orbia is a public company traded in the Mexican Stock Exchange, but the majority is still owned by the family that founded the company many years ago. Which for us it's a very good structure because they think very long term, and are very purpose driven. So we can do things that maybe as a classic public company we couldn't do because we needed to justify the quarter. So they're very supportive in all the things that we try to do. The company this year will probably be between $8 and $8.5 billion in revenues. We have 22,000 employees, almost in every country in the world. And in terms of the value chains that we operate, we have 5 very distinct value chains. So the first one that I mentioned is the agriculture space through the acquisition of Netafim. We have the biggest business group is in a water infrastructure. Those of you in the Netherlands or in Europe might have heard about Wavin or Hep2O in the UK. Very strong brands in the water infrastructure. When I say water infrastructure, I mean both the municipal space, but also the building and housing space. Strong brands in Europe and Latin America. Then the third business, very US focused, but now expanding globally, is a fiber optic conduit. So kind of like the pipes that you put the fiber optic inside it when you design and build communication networks. The fourth business is a very big polymer business group. We're one of the largest PVC manufacturers in the world, specialty PVC, compounding, all kind of like polymeric capabilities and chemistry capabilities. And the last piece in the puzzle, it's a very interesting company that was developed around a mineral called fluor. And fluor or fluorspar, you extract it from the ground. So we have two big mines. But the interesting thing about this fluor, that because of its unique chemical characteristics, through very complex processes, it is used in many applications around us that, well, I at least wasn't aware the magnitude of this material. So for example, I don't know if you know these medical inhalers, the asthma inhalers. So the gas inside is fluor based, and we are the largest manufacturer of that gas. When you go to operating room and you get the anesthesia gas, this is also fluor based. Every time you see a cooling device, air condition, refrigerant in the car, all these gases are fluor based. By the way, they have a very big carbon footprint, which is a separate issue, but it's a very used gas. Lithium-ion batteries. Everybody talks about cobalt and manganese, but you cannot produce lithium-ion without fluor. So batteries and battery materials are a very big strategic focus for us, from both startup investment point of view and larger, I would say, business development activities. So these are the 5 things. I don't know if we want to talk further about Orbia. I can share a little bit the innovation team and what we do. Would that make sense?
I think it would be interesting to look at the innovation capabilities. Like, how is your organizational structure looking like? What type of activities you employ in terms of innovation?
So let me show a simple slide which kind of like talks about everything. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Let me put full screen. I wanted to show you a picture of myself and my kids. Okay, good.
Very cute.
Yeah, and this is the off-road. Anyway, next time. Okay, so this is what we call the Orbia innovation ecosystem. And just to put things in perspective, when I took the position in the middle of 2018, there was nothing there. There was no innovation function. It took me something like 6 months to actually learn what we want to do, because when you say innovation, it consists of so many different activities, you know. Exactly. And I talk to you know, corporate managers, and I talk to VCs and startups and incubator, and try to understand, you know, I couldn't even explain what is innovation and what is innovation in the context of a large organization, which is completely different than innovation if you're a startup company, right? So after 6 months, I was able to write on a piece of paper what I think we should build, and then in the last 3.5 years, we actually started to build this. So let me quickly go through all of these, and then if you want any deep dives on these or broader learnings on the innovation, we can discuss it. Mm-hmm. So the first piece in the puzzle is Orbia Ventures. This is a classic, I would say, corporate venture capital fund. We were allocated $130 million by the Orbia board to invest in early stage startups that are strategic to any one of our businesses or to a larger space, which is the climate tech, which we're very focused on. Next to the venture team, there is the startup partnership program that we have, in which we are looking for startups that we can partner with in order to implement their technologies into our own activities, whether in order to improve our operations or to expand our product offering. And this is where, you know, if you do it rightly, and it's not very easy, but if you do it rightly, this is a win-win situation, because you leverage the innovation and the ingenuity and the progress that smart people did outside of Orbia. And if you find the right place where you can incorporate that, then you can leverage the footprint and the scale and the sales force and the expertise that we have in order to implement that technology into our own processes. Let me give you one example, just as to make it vivid. So in Brazil, we are currently partnering. Well, we are partnering with an Israeli technology company, but the first place that we're going to implement that is in Brazil. This is a company that developed the technology to identify water leak detection in urban water networks. So you might know that municipal water networks waste a lot of money because of leaks that are unknown to anyone. For example, they talk about London as a good example, or maybe a bad example. 50% of the water that is pumped into the network is lost because of leakages.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge from financial point of view. It's huge from an environmental point of view. It's huge on many fronts. So we identify a startup company in Israel that developed a technology to identify those leaks, and we are now building a joint offering in Brazil and Colombia and Mexico, where we go to not the big water infrastructure companies that have the money and the analysts and the technology, but to the smaller municipalities, and offering them leak detection as a service. We tell them, listen, we're going to monitor your system. Every time there's a leak, we're going to help you find it. We're going to also help you to prioritize big leaks versus small leaks. So we are the customer-facing entity, and the back office is the technology that was developed by this startup company. Mm-hmm. So this is just one example, but we have, I think, at least 6 or 7 existing partnership, and maybe another dozen in different level of evaluation.
Wow!
So this is startup partnership.
Maybe a follow up with a question from Benoit here.
Yeah.
He's asking, how do you manage the interactions between the startups you invest in and the core organization?
It's It's a good question. So it depends. There are different levels of interaction depending on the maturity of the startup and the strategic relevance to our businesses. So we have startups where there's no interface whatsoever because the technology will only mature in 3 or 4 years, or because it's not strategically tied to what the business group is doing now. Okay, so for example, we invested in a company that developed a certain vaccine to treat trees that are suffering from certain diseases. Okay, this is something that will mature maybe in 3 years. So the interface between that company and our existing agriculture business is nothing, zero. On the other hand, we have another company that we invested in that during the evaluation process, it was clear there is a strong commercial relevance and opportunity to one of our business groups. And then it became almost a separate process. There is the investment process, and then there is the partnership process, where it's a very, very different timeline, complexity, where you need a lot of support from the business group. So to make a long story short, it's not that every investment has the partnership component, and it's not that every partnership component need to have an investment in order to leverage the partnership. Okay, but I would say that we find it much easier to do the investment than the partnership. The partnership is a complex exercise. You know, to get large organization do things slightly differently. This is much more complex than finding an interesting startup.
Thank you.
I don't know if I answered the question, but if not, Benoit, feel free to.
Yeah, I mean that's there is the financial bet side of it, and of course everybody dreams to invest in the next whatever Tesla, but even the people whose only job is to do that struggle. So the corporate trying to do that struggle even more. So the other benefit is to learn and to leverage what is developed. But indeed, to do that, you need to combine the best of both worlds instead of combining the worst of both worlds. And we see corporations where you have the bureaucracy of the core organization mixed with the chaos of the startup. And for example, the startup you invest in, and then suddenly after 6 months they change direction, or they pivot, you have to say, to be cool. And then suddenly they want to do something that the parent organization is not interested in anymore. So I think managing this tension, this interaction is part of the complexity of making that work. But so thanks for the answer.
Yeah, and I would say very, very good point. I would say that.
Yeah, sorry, can I just raise a question there?
Yes, of
course.
Well,
I'm just interested to understand how, what role leadership has to play in helping really the corporate venture team deal with that complexity and the anxiety that creates that dilemma that the team faces.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to understand if I understood Paul, your comment. You asked, or you commented that it's interesting to understand how the leadership is enabling that, right? Yeah. So I think my experience, it's yes, leadership commitment and leadership guidance is critical. You can't do it without. Like if the CEO of one of our business groups wouldn't commit people, time, resources to do this stuff, it will never succeed. Now, we can hardly hear you, Paul. I can't hear you. Still, am I the only one that can't hear him?
No, there's a bit of a issue, I guess. It's a bit of a maybe you can write it in the chat otherwise, Paul.
Okay, keep going.
Well, now we heard it.
Yeah. Anyway, if we jump quickly to this, I put together kind of a few principles that are important for successful corporate innovation efforts. The first one, it has to start from the CEO. Okay, to your point, Paul. Without the guidance, without the commitments, without the time, if he's not spending time on a quarterly basis understanding where the innovation is heading and where, if startup partnership is one of the components of the program, how this is progressing, it will never succeed. Okay.
Shai, would you even start in your case? You managed, and it has a family shareholder long term. Would you even start with the shareholder first and then the CEO? Given the risk they have to take with performance. Sorry to interrupt, but
no, it's a good question. I think, well, I don't know what's the textbook answer. I can tell you about our experience. What happened in our experience is that in 2018, just around the time when Orbia acquired Netafim, a new CEO was appointed to Orbia, and he was the driving force behind a huge transformation program that was much broader than the innovation. Okay. Specifically on innovation, to be honest, the first 2 years, in terms of like risk, the amount that was invested, it wasn't huge. It was me and a couple of other people. So, in a company that generates $1.6 billion EBITDA, it's not a huge effort. You just need someone who says, okay, it's important to me and I want to make it happen and try it. So in our case, the CEO was a driving force behind completely overhauling the entire company. So, when he joined, he started a big transformation journey that had to do with the purpose and the values and the strategy, changing the name, combining the 5 business groups under one coherent umbrella, strengthening sustainability, global management. Until the point that he came, 90% of the management was based in Mexico. Today, I think we have 1 person left in Mexico. All the rest are US, Europe, Israel. So the journey that he took us, I mean innovation, but much more broader than that, it was all his vision, and that he was managing to convince the board and the family to follow through. And on that front, he was the power. Without him, we would never be here.
I think that's an excellent point. It's really crucial to have the support.
Yeah, so this is Startup Partnership. Orbia Launchpad, this is our internal innovation program. And this is basically where we allow every person in the organization, not only scientists and engineers, every person from, blue collar to purchasing, to secretaries, to every person, to suggest their ideas. And then we have a very structured process in which we train and coach and mentor the different idea generators. And through a very structured selection process, every few months we select a few winners that get funding for experimenting their idea. I don't remember the final numbers, but in the past 2 years, we had more than 10,000 people doing something with the digital platform that we implemented, either suggesting an idea or commenting or doing something. Very high percentage rate of engagement. More than 1,500 ideas that were provided. I think we have now 15 pilots under implementation. So it's a massive program. And the most exciting thing is the feedback that we get from the people in what this program is enabling them, to fulfill their dreams, to think much beyond their current role, to be engaged in those kind of, even presenting to the company CEO. We had 3 projects presenting to the CEO of the company. People that are 4, 5, 6 level below the CEO, they would never have the opportunity to do that. They were so nervous and excited before the presentation, but they did an amazing job. And this is the human element of influencing people day to day is for me, it's much more exciting than another $1 million or $2 million in the bank.
Shai, I've seen many companies implementing these idea management platforms. Indeed,
Yes.
they were very happy with the excitement and so on. But what made a difference to you versus other cases where the ideas just die? They're never executed.
Let me draw a conclusion to the startup partnership. Finding a cool company is 5% of the effort. Connecting into the organization and generating real impact is 95% of the effort. Okay, so the same goes for ideation exercises. To collect 2,000 ideas, it's very easy, but to actually follow through, this is where most programs fail, because you do a very exciting event, you bring I don't know, beers and pizzas, and people get excited, but then what? So 95% of the effort is making sure that there is a very structured process, how you train the people, how you select, how you get the company commitment to invest in every pilot, how after there is sometimes you announce the winner and then people say, okay, this is over. No, it's not over, it's only the beginning. Mm-hmm. Now you need to do monthly meeting. What did you do this month? What are you planning for next month? Do you have any bottleneck, anything you can help you with? We're sending a monthly summary to the entire management of Orbia of how things are progressing on a monthly basis. If something's stuck, the guy in my team that is responsible for Launchpad, he needs to solve it, and this is kind of like the boring stuff.
Yeah,
this what generate the impact, not getting 5,000 ideas in the digital nice platform.
So is the role of the corporate innovation unit to empower those people with the right processes and skills to take an idea to a validated concept?
You touch an interesting point, which is the role of a corporate innovation function in the context of a very distributed organization like ours. Okay, so the 5 business groups that I mentioned earlier are 5 very independent business groups. They operate in different value chains. They have their own management, their own customers, their own CEOs. Most of the activities that we manage, that you see here on the screen, we act, let's say, as catalysts. Okay, we develop the program, we bring the best practices, we design the processes, but the implementation, we don't force it on any business group. If they want to do it, great. If they don't want to do it, also great. We can't do it for them. Okay, so for Launchpad, for example, we brought a full package that says, this is the platform, this is the process, here is the consulting company that will do the training and the onboarding and the education. This is how much it will cost you. This is what you need to put in place. 1 project manager, once a quarter management meeting, this and this and this. You want to take it, take it. If you don't want, that's also okay. So then they nominate a Launchpad manager in the business group, and he or she are working with us to implement it in the organization. So it's all the responsibility of the business group. We bring the process and the program, but they are responsible for the execution.
All right.
Because listen, I have a team of 1, 2, 3 direct reports. Everything else we do with the business groups.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, what happens is either you don't succeed, or you create a big corporate team that costs a lot of money and fight constantly with the business group, who's stronger, who's better, who's nicer, who's
Yeah, I imagine that if you develop too much in the innovation team, it's more difficult to pass on the ownership to the business unit.
Yeah, so there's always a balance, how much you bring in advance, how much flexibility you allow. Mm-hmm. Even stupid stuff. We had people arguing with us how the logo of the Launchpad is going to look on the website, whether we put the Launchpad logo or we put the business group logo. Okay, even people care about that. So you need to breathe deeply and be very accommodating, and certain things you can flex and certain things you can say no. Either you take it like this. Let's say somebody says, I want a different digital platform. No, you can't.
Yep.
But if he wants to change the color, if you want to enhance the process a little bit, because it better suits the specific business group, if it makes sense from a business point of view, we're not against it. We're not rigid in our point of view. But certain things, we need to be inflexible.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Benoit has another follow-up question, but Benoit, it's probably more fun if you address it directly throughout my without my filter.
I just not want too much to disrupt the conversation. So the question was those initiatives you've shown, how much are they committed to contribute to predefined strategic objectives versus how much can they just explore and whatever they find then come. So how much is their box defined upfront? Are
you talking specifically about the internal innovation program?
Or, I mean, maybe the answer is different from the different initiatives, but there are two schools. There is a school that innovation is a means to serve your objectives. So you should start with the objectives and then look for the innovation that will support your objectives. The other school is more emerging and say, go out and come up with what you find, and we will see after the fact if what you found is interesting. And I've seen people defending the two schools, so I just wanted to, well, okay, that's your answer. So there is an answer in terms of size, but is there an answer in terms of scope? So if I come up with a great idea to make jam, would you say, no, that's out of scope? So how much is the implicit or explicit scope predefined?
So let me start with the big picture and then maybe a few specific observations. I think, and again, it's my personal point of view. I'm not saying that this is the true to every organization. I think that innovation efforts without clear objectives, let's say that in our organization, it can't work. Okay, you need to be specific. Now, it's okay if you have something that is difficult to measure, like culture that we have here, okay? But it has to be very clear what you want to achieve. And it has to be measurable. Now, it will take time, but it has to be measurable. And at the end of the day, I think that as, entities that have financial objectives, you can add as many KPIs as you want, but one of them has to be a financial KPI. Okay, so this is kind of like the big picture. Specifically, for every one of the activities on the ecosystem, it has a slightly different flavor in each one of the business groups. Okay, so for example, with Orbia Ventures, we worked specifically with each one of the businesses to understand, okay, where do you want to go? What technologies interest you? Which domains are relevant to your strategy? How can we help you implement that? Okay, so for every business group, we have different areas of focus that we serve through Orbia Ventures. Same goes for startup partnership, right? The water example that I gave you was after we identified together with the business group that infrastructure monitoring is a domain where they want to expand into, and that we serve their strategy. It's not that we bring them stuff that is not connected to the strategy. We actually help them to implement their strategy. Okay. With regards to Launchpad, what we usually do is that once or twice a year in every business group, we announce a Launchpad challenge. A challenge is a kind of like a big question or a big problem that the CEO is broadcasting. And then the ideas for the next 3 or 4 or 5 weeks of the ideation phase has to be relevant to the specific challenge. Now, it could be a very broad challenge. I'll give you an example. One challenge that we did is, how can you use digital tools to better improve our customer-facing activities? Okay. Another challenge was, what can we do to improve our operational efficiencies? Okay. Another challenge was, what can we do to become more sustainable? So it has to be focused enough so people get excited, but at the same time not too focused where you narrow the opportunities. Okay, so I wouldn't do a challenge something like, how can you reduce the average temperature of our production line from 45 degrees to 42 degrees? Okay, this is too narrow. Okay, you need something big enough for people to get excited, right?
And a question here, Shai. Those target revenues, do you break them down into those innovation theses, or not really?
So I have, for my own purposes and for the purposes with my CEO, we have a certain Excel that give a directional split to the different business groups and the different activities. But to be honest, whether it's good practice or bad practice, we don't follow it very diligently and say, okay, this quarter we wanted the startup partnership to generate $2 million and we generated only 1.6. We don't do it. Okay. Again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that that's the reality in our company.
Maybe it's good to align expectations, because sometimes you have corporate executives who have crazy expectations about what the innovation program will deliver. So indeed, it's not going to be 1.6 instead of 2, but it's not going to be 20, and it's not going to be a few dozen.
Yeah.
So expectation management is maybe more important than monitoring.
I agree. So in our case, this XXX is $300 to $500 million. Okay, and this was agreed. This was agreed with the CEO. Now, how this breaks down into the matrix of business group and activities, we have a certain Excel, but we don't, measure it on a quarterly basis with each one of the businesses. We have a directional, aspiration, and once in a while we take a look and we see, okay, are we moving the needle or not?
Okay, got it.
Okay, the last two pieces in the puzzle. One is what we call new ventures. This is basically setting up almost new companies from scratch. And I'll give one example. We identified a certain. Let me take a step back. When you store grains, nuts, over a long period of time in humid and hot climates, those grains develop certain toxins. And this is a big global problem. If you want to export crops to US and Europe, there are very strict regulations on the level of toxins. And if at the border they measure your level and you're above certain level, they ship it back, and after a while you get on the blacklist. So we identify a certain technology that was developed by someone else, and he worked on it for 4 years to address that problem. And that company brought this solution up to a lab scale machine. And recently we signed an MOU that together we're going to commercialize this technology globally. Okay, so again, we bring the knowledge of how to build new ventures, we bring the funding, we bring the commercial capabilities, we bring the global scale. If I need to now meet the top 3 exporters in Mexico, in 2 phone calls we can do it. If I need to find the 3 biggest exporters in Brazil, we can do it. So there's a lot of power in the organization to help it become successful. And we have 2 of these activities in the works now, and we're now evaluating another 2 that they might kick off in the next 6 months. And then the last piece in the puzzle, it's what we call advanced analytics. This is basically how can we adopt AI and machine learning technologies to solve problems or to create opportunities that we couldn't have done until today with the existing technologies. And here there are a few components of the program. There is the educational piece of doing large workshops to explain to people what is AI, what is machine learning, how other companies have adopted it, what can you do with it, what you cannot do with it. Then we have ideation session to identify certain potential use cases. And in the last year, we run 3 pilots to actually prove that there is value in implementing those technologies. Now, we don't do it ourselves. We don't have the capabilities in-house. We've identified a company that helped us throughout the whole process. You know, the workshops, the education, the synthesis, the scoping, the piloting, everything. And, you know, it's too early for me to judge, but 2 out of the 3 pilots are already showing real financial benefits. And we decided to continue for 3 more months. And then in the end of Q1, we'll decide whether we do a full scale up or we discontinue, but it looks okay for now. So that's about it. I would say maybe something that is not here, which is very important. It's the entire internal communication. You know, many different platforms. You know, I have all kind of forums and webinars and monthly emails that I send, just to make sure that everybody's always aware of what we do and are exposed to what we do, and what happens in one business group might influence another business group. And my rule of thumb is that there are never such thing as over communication. You know, always communicate in whatever forum you can think of: structured forum, unstructured forum, written, videos, and anything that you can think about is very important.
Okay. Sounds good. So maybe we go through the remaining principles, because I see the participants have some more questions.
So let's start maybe with the questions and
with the question. Okay, Carla, but Carla, please address them.
I have a few questions, Shai,
directly.
but let me start with one, which is this specific talk. I didn't get specifically if you use the AI and machine learning for your data analysis or for enhancement of some solutions or products, or both.
In theory, for both. I can tell you what are the three pilots that we're currently working on. Okay, first one is around upsell and cross-sale opportunities in the agriculture sector in India. So we analyze millions of data points and we try to give the marketing and the salespeople a better and more efficient way to identify cross-sell and upsell opportunities.
So the innovation comes from you applying AI, machine learning, innovative technologies through a market analysis process. It is already existent in the company, right?
To a certain extent, yes. We have the data on the farmers and what they bought and how much they bought and what the competitors did, and a lot of external and internal data. We mix it all together and we spit out recommendation of which customer has a higher propensity to upsell or
so
cross-sell.
this is pure data analysis on your area or of a market analysis, but you're just improving the way you do using technology, new technology, right?
Yes.
Got it.
We also have another process of what we call demand forecasting. So we try to understand, again, through the combination of internal and external data, what would be the demand for our products in certain regions. Okay. We have another pricing project where we, again, try to help the customer representatives to identify whether they have an opportunity to increase pricing by a slight percentage and not to lose the deal. Okay.
So they're much more like your process improvement, right? Rather than to applying this to a new product, or you do have something.
We don't have anything new product. Well, if you think about the water infrastructure example that we gave, it's not part of the advanced analytics, it's part of the startup partnership program.
Okay.
But what they do, they developed a completely new offering, you know, this leak detection as a service based on advanced technology. So
but then it's another circle.
Yes.
I was specifically talking about machine learning and AI.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two more questions and one very specific. I mean, one is, I think, also similar to what Benoit just raised there. It's the experience I used to have. I mean, if Orbia had a kind of R&D area, and how do you leverage on that? Because what I faced in the past is when you have a company that is based on pure R&D, how do you turn it to be an R&D and I? What I used to see is that, okay, you have engineers heavily working on R&D, but then you need to get these people working closely with marketing people, with the strategy people, with people that not only talk technology, but also can organize, had a business plan, you know, or have a strong pitch. How do you connect this all? I mean, this all that you presented, but also bringing R&D in.
Yeah.
If you do have R&D, I don't know.
Yeah, we do. We have 19 R&D centers around the world. Each one of our business group is either top 1 or 2 player in their own industries, and all of them have very strong R&D teams. Now, to put things in context, I don't manage these R&D teams. Okay, this is beyond the scope of my work, and I think rightly so. Okay, because there's very little that I can contribute to the R&D team of the agriculture division. They know much better.
There is no connection between innovation and R&D.
There is, but I don't manage them. Okay.
Okay.
The connection comes
not hierarchically. Okay, so you do interact.
I think the connection. It's a good question, but the connection, I think, comes from specific interactions. It's not about big statements of, okay, R&D and innovation now need to learn how to work together. It's very, very specific. Like when we did the Orbia venture, so we met with the R&D teams and the leadership of each one of the organization. We asked them, what are you excited about? What problems do you have? Where do you want to take this company? What technology are you working on? Okay. And then when there is a specific opportunity, we use their expertise to analyze it. So they get excited about it in the process. Okay. If I talk about startup partnership, again, we identify with each one of the businesses, what are the 2-3 areas that you need our help? Okay. And let's define the process of what does it mean to evaluate, and who's involved and who's doing what. Because like many other people, if you just tell someone here, take this startup and start working with it, you say, oh, who the fuck are you? Why are you talking to me about startup? Why?
Yeah, I know it well.
So there's something.
Shy, but then, I mean, I think it's a good time to then have the other question is like, do you have a separate P&L? Because then was a big issue, because you know, in order to invest in innovation, you mentioned about the CEO agenda, right? But I mean, when you struggle with your core P&L, how do you guarantee that you are investing longer term, you know? And then also with R&D, because R&D always have those kinds of subsidies, you know, that you can use, but sometimes you can use some of them for innovation, sometimes not. How do you play with this? And please answer if you do have a separate P&L.
So again, this is how we organize it. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it, but this is how we organize it. I don't have a P&L. I have only L. Okay.
Okay.
I only have expenses.
Yes. Okay. So you don't have a separate P&L.
The only thing that I will be measured directly is Orbia Ventures, the success of the investments. That's the only thing.
Okay.
All the rest, also maybe one of the new ventures that I'm personally responsible for. Okay. But all the rest, startup partnership, advanced analytics, Orbia launch, all the value, all the cost, all the benefits is in the P&L of the business groups. I know for communication purposes and, you know, excitement and internal marketing, I know how to carve it out and measure it. Okay. But my P&L is very simple. My annual budget cycle is 5 minutes. I tell them, okay, my expense was X. Now I want X plus 1. That's it. Goodbye. Okay. Very simple P&L.
But then you have targets in business units so that they allocate some part of it for innovation, and you're sure that.
Yes, and I know that more than the targets, I see the foundation that is there. So there is an innovation manager in each one of the business groups that is working with us on all the things. Okay.
Okay.
There is an articulation of how many times they're going to do Launchpad next year. Who's going to manage it? Okay, do we have a set aside budget for that? Okay, in the advanced analytics, how many pilots are you going to do next year? Who's going to manage it? So it's much more of a, I would say, I'm worried less on whether there is an innovation budget line in their P&L. I'm more worried if there are people that wake up in the morning and want to make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes we need
Great
both,
point.
but there is pressure on it when you struggle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Shai, maybe you run us through the rest of the principles or learnings. We're kind of approaching the end of the session, but I would love to hear the other points.
Okay, with pleasure. I'll do it quickly, but I'm happy to follow up if anyone wants to do a longer deep dive on any of the topics. Okay, so let's see what we didn't cover. Okay, this is because before the principles, this is something that people need to understand what is the role of innovation. And in my mind, the role of innovation is to ensure the future growth of the company. And many people agree to that, but many people also agree that they don't know how to do it properly. So for me, that's the role of innovation. We talked about the CEO that has to be there. It's also important to define what innovation means. I think we also touched upon it a little bit because different organizations will define innovation in a different way. This is how we define innovation. And it doesn't matter what's the definition, it's just important that everybody will speak the same language. This is important. You know, if you deal with innovation, you might have seen it, but it's important also from a communication point of view to explain to the people that innovation is one big word, and actually there are 3 types or even 4 types of innovation. Okay, we don't have time to go into the details, but this is nothing that I invented. It's in the literature for many years. The different types of innovation and how complicated they are. Mm-hmm. This is another important principle, and it's important also to align it with the leadership. By definition, a lot of the things that innovation will do will fail. But you don't like when you invest in stocks. You don't look on the specific stock performance. You look at the portfolio, and if the portfolio moves positively, then you're happy. You don't need to worry about things that will go wrong, because things will go wrong. Okay. This is something that I did develop, but again, it puts together 2 very simple things. This is the type of innovation that we discussed earlier, and this is the time to maturity. So how long it will take to start generating some financial impact. And the important thing is that you need to sit down with your leadership and explain in which part of the quadrant you want to be. Are you doing innovation that will bring you impact in the next 3 years? Or are you also doing stuff that will do impact in the next 10 years? Are you doing only core innovation, or do you want also to put some money on transformative? Now, there's no right or wrong answer, but it's important to align with the leadership on what you do and what you don't do. And then put the different activities that will deliver on those innovations. Okay? Principle number 6 is that innovation needs to be a corporate function like any other function, like legal, like HR, like finance. You need to have budgets, and you need to have targets, and you need to have people and succession plans. It's like any other function. It's not a project, it's not an initiative, it's not something that will finish at some point, it's there forever. Again, I'll touch briefly upon that. When you manage innovation, there are 3 very distinct capabilities that you need to make sure that you have. And it's very rare to find people that have all the 3 capabilities, or even just the 2 of them. So finding the right people for the different capabilities is very important. We talked about the objectives, and the last one, which I think is clear to all of you, you know, we're now 3 years into the program, and only now we're starting to see some positive indication that we're doing the right stuff. It just takes a lot of time.
Okay, excellent, Shai.
Thanks a lot.
Maybe I wish we could continue the discussion for the whole day, but you have to start your work with the US, I guess. So maybe a last question on my side, like briefly, what would be your advice to a CEO who wants to start this kind of journey?
Well, first, make sure that you understand those 9 principles, okay? And second, bring someone that will build it for you, because it has to be someone that has the time and also the mental freedom to think beyond the quarter and the year. It needs to be someone that wakes up in the morning and think long term.
Mm-hmm.
All the rest, if you bring the right people and you have, and if you as a CEO have the commitment to put your time, your resources, your people on that, it will succeed. And
you mentioned maybe part of your success was the fact that part of the company is privately owned. How do you overcome the problem of a 100% publicly listed company, where the objectives are maybe a bit contradictory to long-term results?
I think maybe or let's put it differently. A lot of companies, or most companies, invest for the future. So they have a certain, all R&D expenses are investment into the future. So I think this is not something unique to innovation. Most organizations invest for future profits. They just need to manage that investment in things. Just going back to the this matrix of how much you invest for which time period and what risks you're willing to take. And it's okay if 70% of your spend is still on core R&D, but make sure that 20 or 30% of your investment is for something beyond the core capabilities.
Okay. Good. Maybe one last burning question from anybody before we close.
Just tell me the name of the Israeli company you're mentioning, the water leakage.
They call Takadu, Takadu.
No,
they're not.
I met some guys a long time ago with exactly the same solution, Israeli here. Had long discussions, but it's not this name. Good to see.
Okay, good.
That was a quick one, Jan.
Yes. Well, over here is lunchtime. In other parts, you just start the day. But maybe, like you suggested, Shai, if somebody has more questions, they could reach out to you on your INSEAD email address. And otherwise,
and I'm putting on the chat now also my Orbia email. Feel free to use it, and I'll put my phone number as well. Just WhatsApp me, whatever you want. Okay.
That's great. So
great.
We will we'll share this recording on our YouTube channel, and I'm sure that there are some people who missed the session, but they'll be able to watch it recorded. So
thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Johan, for putting it together. It was great fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And also being at the end of the year, enjoy the holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
Relax, recharge your batteries, and yeah, I'm looking forward to meet next spring at INSEAD. I hope we can all make it.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.